Welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Witchery Wyvern, and today we're covering the new Unearthed Arcana that dropped 7 hours ago, 8 hours ago, called Wonders of the Multiverse. This has a lot of content in it, a lot of revisions of old content and some new stuff. There's the Glitchling. Let me see. Let me open it up on my end, actually. There's a Glitchling, there's a Cleric, Fate Domain, there's backgrounds, 4 backgrounds. There's a bunch of feats that are basically covering the giants and a bunch of other stuff, and there's the spells. Now, this thing is 12 pages long, and you know what? I'm kind of busy right now, so I'll only cover what I feel is really important right now, and over the course of the rest of the weeks, we'll take our time and go through everything else. Today, we're going to focus on the Glitchling and the Cleric subclass Fate Domain. These are the two priorities, the new race and the new Cleric subclass. So join me as we go through these, have a little bit of fun with this. Again, this is playtest material, none of this is official. Don't get too angry when they do things that are bad. Sometimes they do things that are good. Anyway, this is the usual stuff we see in every creating your character UA. This is basically the new format of every race to come out. Ability score increases are modular, so +3 into 2 or 3 stats. Your languages is common +1. Creature type, just a description of creature types, because there are new playable creature types, which is wonderful. Lifespan is supposed to be a century, unless they say otherwise. And let's see. And height and weight is similar to humans. This is basically saying it's general unless you don't want it to be. Accept it for what it is. Great. Cool. So, we're going to start with the Glitchling. What is a Glitchling? Nobody knows. The Glitchling, as far as I know, has 0 history in the D&D lore. I looked it up, looked through the wiki. I don't see anything. So what I'm assuming is that this is a new base race that they're going to use for anybody who wants to make any sort of construct type player character. That's not the Warforged and that's not the Autonome, which is coming out in, I believe, exactly a month. Exactly a month. So let's read through this description and we'll go from there. Created by forces. By the way, I've already read this. I don't like giving people my first pass or first reaction because it's often uninformed. I like reading a whole lot of opinions and then documenting here so I get to save time during this recording. Let's see. Created by forces of planar law, Glitchlings are winged, human-like creatures. Interesting, winged and human-like creatures from a merger of magic and machine. These explorers seek to learn all they can about the multiverse and its creatures. Some Glitchlings then carry what they learn back to lawful planes, like Mechanus, to inform the orderly working of the multiverse. Others become enamored with travel and the peoples they encounter. They seek to make a life of their own among the planes. Glitchlings began their existence with rudimentary personalities. As they absorb information and experiences, their personalities grow. That should be purple. But many retain quirks associated with their lawful origins, and there's a quirk table of interesting things that make them interesting. Now, this is the bog standard. I'm a robot, but I can learn to love. It's the growth of a character that is truly a static character until they start adventuring. The Glitchling, I am assuming the name implies that they're breaking free from the forces of planar law, where everything they do is rigid and planned and structured and constant, right? A glitch in that system would be one of these constructs deciding to do something else, something adventurous, testing the waters, being experimental, doing things like that, references to this glitch-like aspect. Now, we do have 2 constructs to compare to. So it is the Autonome, which is a UA released a couple months ago, in 2021, and it's coming out in a month. And there's also the Warforged, which is not technically a construct because it's kind of old. It was made in 2019. So if you're looking to make a robot, right? Just a robot character. This is as plain as it gets. I guess they have wings. I think it's interesting that they implied it's human-like. Like, you can't really configure it to be a quadrupedal or circular. Like, the Plasmoid did it really well in making a body that's not exactly humanoid. But I guess for simplicity's sake, they're leaving it human-like. Anyway, let's keep going. These quirks are really interesting. They're just... this is what you'd find in every movie. This is Wall-E over here. This is every, like, hive mind. I seek out new experience so I can better understand the freedom of my existence. This is the giant, right? The giant from that one movie from a while long ago that wanted to be Superman. Can't remember. It's not the Jolly Green Giant. It's a different giant. Iron Giant. This is Iron Giant right here. I preface things by saying observation, objection, query. This is CP30. I plan elaborate responses to every contingency, ready to execute at a moment's instance notice. I don't know who this is, but this is like just robots being smart. This is like Jarvis, right? And I investigate people's intentions behind their actions, trying to solve the equation that guides them. I really like how this was phrased. I'm a big fan of this one. It trying to solve the equation that guides them is a very poetic way of saying I have to understand why people have feelings. And I really dig this one of all of them. The rest of them, just ways to play a robot. Anyway. Glitchlings are data from Star Trek. I don't know Star Trek. Couldn't tell you. Robots that doesn't quite get people. But yeah, this is the common trope. We're gonna see a lot of this. Anyway. Yeah, I was just thinking that exact thing, Kaden, that fresh cut grass is kind of something that came between the Autonome and this. You can tell that some of its design was catered around the Autonome, which was released right before or right around fresh cut grass's arc, but they're going, I think he's officially an Aerotron, which is something homebrew, and you know how homebrew goes. Let's keep going. Number 6 is data. Wonderful. Anyway, Glitchling traits. I've already covered quite a bit of this just because I've read through it already. As a Glitchling, you have the following racial traits. You are a construct. That's cool. We've tried to avoid this specifically because they can't be healed, but they're trying to remedy that with different traits. You are medium, separate from the Autonome. The Autonome is by default small. So this is kind of being defined as a singular independent character rather than the Autonome, which is kind of just like a workshop servant, you know? They're kind of differentiating the aesthetics of each one. And what separates this one is that it has wings and it is medium-sized. Walking speed, 30 feet, normal. Armored plating, your metal skin is reinforced with armored plates. While you aren't wearing heavy armor, your base armor class is 14 plus your dex. Now, when we look at this, we're going to compare it to all the other... different... Let me see if I can pull it up. I want to compare it to all the other different armor classes. So let me actually open it up real quick. Just give me a second. But yeah, it is the best natural armor. This is the point I'm trying to get to. So let's bounce over to here. I have just a little bit of a thing prepped for this. Let's open up this. Wonderful. Let's bounce this over this way. So this is basically my notes for this. When you're looking over here, these are all the different armor class modifications that come available in races. So we have the Warforged, which is +1 to AC. We have the Hybrid Carapace, which is also +1 to AC when you're not wearing heavy armor. The Turtle has a base AC of 17, and your dex isn't affected at all. So that's kind of like a flat, typical heavy armor style sort of AC. No mods on that. You can't wear light, medium, or heavy armor, but if you are using a shield, you can apply the shield's bonuses as normal. Then comes the UA, right? So the UA is, while you aren't wearing... Well, let me see if I can make this a little bigger for you guys. Yeah, there you go. So the Thri-Kreen and the Autonome also came with the small upgrade in design ideology. So Thri-Kreen and Autonome both have a base armor that is 13 plus your dex, and this is also 13 plus your dex over here. Now the Glitchling is the new one, right? Glitchling, if you look over here, is armored plating. While you aren't wearing heavy armor, your basic armor class is 14 plus dex. So this is higher than both the Thri-Kreen and the Autonome. And if you have +3 dex, it's equal to the Turtle. Yeah, it's equal to the Turtle. So any dex class, if you're talking like a rogue, if you're talking monk, if you're talking some sort of dex fighter, they will make they'll get huge benefit from this by maxing out their dex. They'll have a 19 armor class if they have +5 dex. And the best way to receive that as a dex character is like a Glamour Studded Leather, which gives you 13 plus dex, which is 18. So by default, it's already higher than the maximum threshold of a Glamour Studded Leather Rogue, which is significant, right? That's a really good armor class. How this compares to the Warforged just getting +1 in armor class, honestly, this has its uses for like more strength-based characters, but this is more useful for dex-based characters. This is a high threshold, and if we're assuming that this was written while Autonome has already been published and released, Now we have to wonder if this is what Autonome is going to look like in a month when the official Spelljammer book is released, right? It's good. It's really good. This is probably a testing thing. We're going to see if they're serious about this when Spelljammer comes out. Because if Spelljammer comes out and Autonome has 14 plus decks, then this will also have 14 plus decks moving forward. Is it game breaking? Well, I don't know. What am I supposed to tell you? If you max out decks, this is a perfect class. But let's keep going. Let's keep moving. Let's see if I can... There you go. Let's go back to this. So the next thing is Balance Chaos. Balance Chaos, when you make an attack roll or saving throw and roll a 9 or lower on a 20, you can Balance Chaos and treat this roll as a 10. You can do this a number of times equal to PB per long rest. Now this looked familiar. So when I looked at this is a couple of things. So let's bounce over to here. I'm going to scroll down to, let me see if I can open this, to Clockwork Sorcerer Trance of Order. Now this is a level 14 feature. I'm going to open it here, and I'm going to open it here, and we can read it together. Trance of Order at level 14, you can enter a state for a 1 minute, and you get the same exact bonus. Whenever you would make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can treat a roll of 9 or lower as a 10. This lasts for a minute. It doesn't require any sort of action economy besides the initial bonus action. And it's really good because it affects all three of these really important things. It makes things very, very stable. This is a level 14 feature, by the way. Now, if you look at Balance Chaos, and I think you can't exactly read it if I put it here. So let me bounce it over to this side. Let's see if I do this right. Oop, like that. Great. So Balance Chaos is the exact same thing. When you make an attack roll or saving... Oh, it's no ability check. I didn't even notice that. Let me see. Oh, it doesn't work on ability checks. Interesting. Not really a game breaker, but I guess that's the difference. You can treat it as a 10. So if you have a mod of +5, right, and you have proficiency, which is 3 to 5, then you average out the rolls to a 15 or an 18, which may or may not, depending on the CR you're fighting, make you pass the saving throw. I think it's good. I think this is really good, especially because this costs no action economy. It doesn't cost an action, a bonus action, or a reaction. You just do it, right? So that's fantastic. You've also seen this on Clockwork Amulet, also something tied to the plane of Mechanus. You can turn a 9 and you can forego rolling to turn it into a 10. So if you have the right stats in the right places, this will be really useful. But if your wisdom saving throw is like a +1, this won't save you, right? If you roll like a 7 and you change it to a 10, you get an 11 on a saving throw, literally saves you from nothing. So this basically helps you with the rolls that you're already very good at. So attacking rolls or saving throws that you have proficiency in. I think this is very good. This feels like a class feature, but to put it on a race that already has decent AC, 2 good feats in a row, pretty fantastic. Good for death saves? Interesting. Yeah, you're right. Good for death saves is exactly when you would use this. So saving throw, this doesn't say you have to be conscious at all. You could do this and you also don't have to have action economy. So that's wonderful. Yeah, you could definitely use this for death saving throws. Wow, that's useful. Let's remember that. That is an interesting one. Drake, I'm using Notion. Notion is what I prefer to use for my notes. Yeah, wow, great. They should probably add that you should be conscious to use this, because if you use this on death saves, it's kind of cheap. But otherwise, I'm not too phased by this. I don't think it's busted. I think it's really strong, of course, and in combination with everything else in this race, it might be pushing over the edge. Yeah, you can just succeed death saves, never die. I mean, if you get knocked down twice, then that's more than 3 death saves. But let's keep going. Next is Living Construct. So this negates what makes Construct so weak, besides being killed by by weapons that target constructs and Cleric subclasses that hate constructs. This lets you heal, which is great because it's really annoying when you can't heal your friends. So this is Cure Wounds, Healing Word, Mass Cure Wounds, Mass Healing Word, and Spare the Dying. Now this is an improvement over the Autonome. So when I look at this, I have to assume that the Autonome that's being released in a month has this exact correction, because we can look at that here. Let me bounce over back to Notion. I'm going to go here. So this, I compared the Autonome and the Glitchling. because they're both UA. They both haven't been released. And the design decisions of the Glitchling kind of paint what will happen to the Autonome. So let's keep going down. Where is it? Here. So this is what... let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. There you go. So this is what Autonome had. They have a little bit of this, which helps them heal with mending. But they also have this. So spells that affect them, that they usually don't affect constructs, cure wounds, healing word, and spare the dying. And people correctly corrected them and said there are more spells, right? So this is the correction, and this is what I believe that Autonome will also have. They're going to have mass cure wounds added to this list, and they're going to have mass healing word added to this list. This is just quality of life, right? They kind of don't want you to not be able to heal your party. If someone wants to play a construct, they shouldn't be penalized by not being able to be healed. And this is how they managed to handle it. This is simple and clean, I suppose. You can make this more complicated if you really want to, and be like, oh, change the effects of mending and stuff like that to heal constructs. But that's another can of worms that I don't really want to go into. This is the simplest way to do it. Yeah, so they don't have this true life mending thing that Autonomes have, but they do have the benefits of being able to be healed. Anyway, let's keep going. Next is Ordered Mind. You have advantage on Wisdom Insight checks and on saving throws made to avoid or end the charmed condition on yourself. Now, this is good, right? Because you're a robot. You shouldn't be able to be charmed as easily as everything else. Most constructs in D&D have immunity to charm. But I'd like to compare this to the different benefits that the other construct-like races have. So I'm going to bounce back over here, and I've compiled a list of comparing the Warforged to the Autonome to the Glitchling. So, let me see here. The Glitchling has advantage on insight checks, saving throws to avoid the charmed condition, right? Now, Autonome has advantage on saving throws against being paralyzed or poisoned, and they also don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. This line right here, I'm going to bold it because it's kind of important. This line right here was left out of the Glitchling. So the Glitchling is part man, part robot, very Astro Boy, very Mega Man, that they do need to eat, drink, and breathe. Like, this is not something that they're immune to. So they can be hit by poison effects, they can be hit by cloud kill, they can be hit by anything that requires them to... They struggle underwater. That's something entirely different. And if you look towards Warforged, let me bounce it over here, actually, so you can read it. Warforged have the full package, right? Advantage against being poisoned, resistance to poison damage, don't need to eat, drink, or breathe, immune to disease, you don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. Now, note this was written in 2019, right? This is what constructs used to get, or construct-like things, because Warforged are not technically constructs, right? This is what constructs used to get. I mean, all this. Poison resistance, eat, drink, or breathe, immune to disease, no need to put to sleep, magic can put you to sleep. Curiously, Glitchling is missing all of that. So they can be hit by poison, they can be put to sleep, they can catch diseases, they need to eat, they need to drink, they need to breathe. This is a much more human race than the classic constructs, which is really interesting, to me at least. They also don't have Sentry's Rest. I should mention this too. Both Autonome and Warforged have Sentry's Rest, which lets them stay inert. They can't do that. They need their proper shut-eye. And yeah, Drake gets Notion. Thank you for people who change. Yeah, and it's also a good point. Let's see who said that. The Spinda. They have advantage on insight checks, I guess, because they're just highly calculating minds. I don't know. I don't know. Couldn't explain that. Anyway, the last unique feature of Glitchlings that I bounce back over is Vestigial Wings. You have vestigial wings, whatever that word means, that allow limited flight. When you move, you can gain your wings and gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed until the end of your current turn. If you're aloft at the end of your turn with nothing else supporting you, you fall. You can use this number PB per long rest. So, this is a glorified jump, right? Do we understand that this is a glorified jump? That you'll never be able to exceed your movement speed beyond... You'll never exceed your fly speed, or your movement speed when you're flying. You're just trying to cross big chasms, get to high ledges, things like that. You can't stay airborne unless you have some magic helping you with that. So this is just a fancy way of saying jump. This is actually very similar to... it's actually very similar to the monk feature, right? The dragon something monk. give me a second if I can see if I can figure it. Dragon Monk. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere here. Do I have access to that? Way of the Ascendant Dragon. Let's see. Wings unfurled. Actually, that's pretty darn close. Let me zoom out so you can read it. There. When you use Step of the Wind, you can unfurl draconic wings from their back that vanish at the end of your turn. While the wings exist, you have a flying speed equal to your walk speed. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Yeah, this is exactly the same thing, isn't it? PB per long rest. This one costs key, though. For the Glitchling, it's free. You just have wings. Yeah, same thing. Cool. Good to know. So let's look at this thing as a full race. Construct, just generally good. Can't be hit by so you're not humanoid, right? So you can't be hit by charm person, hold person. Anything that targets humans badly, you can't be hit by. Medium's fine, whatever. Walk speed's fine, whatever. This is amazing, 14 plus dex. If you build into it, it's really good. If you don't build into it, I mean, most people have a base 14 dex just if they're smart, right? So a base 16 AC with no armor. It's like a mage armor, but free. Very good. This is a fantastic feature that has no action economy, which is amazing, and you can use it to bolster the roles that you're already good at. This is just quality of life. This over here is solid too. It's like a Fey ancestry, basically. And Vestigial Wings is just a plus. So all of these are useful. There are no useless traits here. There's nothing. There's no fat. You know how some classes have some races have some features that don't do anything. This is one of those features that does a lot of good things, right? If I were to compare it to the Autonome and the Warforged, again, it doesn't have the benefit of being immune to disease or resistance to poison or immune to eating, drinking, and breathing or sleeping, all of that typical robot stuff. Not here. This is as human as it gets. So this is pretty bog standard, regular old robot trying to be human. I think there's a lot of good stories that could be told with this. I think people were looking for this for a while, and Warforged just wasn't cutting it. Warforged is very armory, very heavy feeling, and Autonome is very small and quirky. And this is like the median. If they're trying to make an agnostic, a system or plane or setting agnostic robot, this is pretty good. I feel like this is a little bit much. Most robots don't need to fly. This is kind of extra, but the rest of it is pretty darn standard. I think this is strong. I think it's good. I put it as green just because I think it's very good. But yeah, that's my verdict on Glitchling. I don't think I'll have a problem with this. I think if this is bumped down to 13, I'm perfectly fine with it. I like strong races with strong identities, and this is fine. So with that, let's bump over to the Cleric subclass. Should I make this a separate video, the Cleric subclass? Maybe. But you guys are witnessing it today. Should I do the intro again? Maybe we should do the intro again. Why wings give jetpack? That's exactly true. Why wings give jetpack? That's right. Get that Astro Boy, that Mega Man, that XJ9, all of those humanoid robots trying to live, right? Trying to survive. Anyway, if I'm going to chop this up into a new video, I'm just going to do my intro again. But if you're listening here, thanks for watching. This is great. The next thing we're going to cover from this UA is the Cleric subclass Fate Domain. Now, Clerics have a ton of subclasses, right? What's the count right now? Is it 13? Is it 14? Alita Battle Angel. Yeah, exactly. Is it 13? Is it 14? It's a lot. But this is just one more. And this is kind of a gap that's been sitting in the Cleric bubble for a while. Like a divinity-based cleric. A cleric that can see the threads of destiny and really tap into them. I'm going to read this and I'll do my verdict on it. So the Fate Domain. Gods of fate perceive the future and how the choices mortals make drive them towards their destinies. While deities consider the future preordained... Wait, did I read that right? Some deities consider the future preordained, while others... Scroll. Understand the multiverse as a place of infinite possibility. Clerics who draw power from the forces of fate sometimes receive visions directly from their deity and receive fleeting omens of the future. They share impossible knowledge with their allies and prophesy their enemies' doom. Good start, right? Good start. I like the idea of a weaving cleric when they can see, oh, hey, Is that a new subscriber? Hey, welcome. Welcome, Peter. Cool. So I like the premise, right? I like thinking of a cleric that has a weaver-like aesthetic, pulling its strings out of the fabric of reality and twisting destiny into exactly what they want it to do. That's awesome. I love that. There's a very divine, very holy aspect to that, and tapping into a god that lets you do that, they give a couple examples here, is fantastic. Now, with that said, with the aesthetic established, does the subclass deliver? Now, here's where we get into it. Let's talk about the domain spells first. First level Fate Domain feature, you gain these domain spells at the levels listed. These are the domain spells. Now, I marked these. These are purple, right? The ones I marked with purple are spells that clerics don't usually have access to. So, Dissonant Whispers, Heroism, and See Invisibility are not cleric spells, which is pretty good. Dissonant Whispers is a decent spell. It's pretty solid. See Invisibility is good too, I guess. Very situational. But I'll be honest with you, the rest of the spells are a little underwhelming, right? The problem that I'm running into here when I'm looking at these domain spells is that they're trying to build a spell list for a fate-aligned cleric from the spells that only exist in the player's handbook, which is not many. There aren't many divination spells that you could tap into that really tap into this aesthetic very well. And that's kind of the flaw here. These domain spells don't have a wide enough pool to really get the spells they're looking for. Now, if you were looking at like things to tap into the aesthetic of Fate, what has some great spells is Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. I'm going to bounce over to Chrome and show you a couple of those. I want to show you here Fortune's Favor. Now, this is a Fate spell, right? Second level spell. You can impart latent luck to yourself or one willing creature, and when they make a roll, you can make them roll again and give them that reroll chance to twist the threads of fate. Now, this would be a perfect spell for a Fate-aligned class, or subclass, right? But they can't do that because it's not Player's Handbook. This is from a supplemental book. It's taboo to put things into the domain spell list that are from other sources, which is unfortunate, right? It's setting specific. Yeah, I understand it's setting specific, and that's the flaw, right? Another spell that taps into the whims of fate is another one from Wildmount, Temporal Shunt, 5th level. You target a triggering creature, succeed on a saving throw, thrown to another point in time and causing the attack to miss and the spell to be wasted. That is perfect for this aesthetic, right? It's exactly what they're looking for in terms of like twisting the threads of destiny. What just happened, it didn't just happen, right? These kind of spells would land fantastically in the domain list, but they can't use it because it's not Player's Handbook, and they don't want to assume that players have these books on the wayside. You know, that's one of my major gripes about the most recent stuff coming out, that they're being limited to this singular book that only has so many spells. And in a perfect world, when the Player's Handbook comes out in 2024, there's the new one, they really expand that spell list to include the ones from Xanathar, the ones from supplemental sources, so that they're no longer limited in these domain spell lists to these lists that can't achieve the aesthetic. I think Fate Domain Cleric is a fantastic aesthetic, but it doesn't have the domain spells to back it up. But that's just me. Let's keep going. So this is what I wrote. Clairvoyance and Gios, I just don't feel like they tap into this Fate aesthetic as well as they could. Commune and Divination, of course, are necessary, and Death Ward is just a good spell in general, but the rest are just okay. They're okay. But let's keep going, because I could sit on that for a little bit, and I think that's not too important in the grand scheme of things. Clerics have fantastic spells, no matter what. Let's keep going. This is the first flavor feature, Omens and Portents. You can receive signs of the future in everyday objects and events, such as the flight of birds and ripples made in water by a thrown stone. I really like that. Is that a new subscriber? Welcome. Welcome, a coup de grace. This is a nice little flavor text. You can cast the augury spell without spending a spell slot, and when you cast a spell in this way, it has no verbal, somatic, or material components. When you cast a spell in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So this is a once per long rest thing. And it doesn't say you can use your spell slots to cast it. So you don't learn augury, right? Usually it says you can also cast a spell using your own spell slots, right? This doesn't say that. you have to prepare it like every other spell if you want to use it more than once. So that's kind of weird, right? You want to be able to cast this more than once because you got to tap into the second benefit over here Until you finish a long rest when you cast a divination spell that has a 25% chance of failing, or a compounding one, reduce that chance by 25%. So for people who don't understand what this means, right, I'm going to pull up Augury, Commune, and Divination. Let me bounce back over to Chrome and show you what that looks like. So Augury here has this sentence down here. Maybe I can zoom in and show you better. Yeah, here. If you cast a spell 2 or more times before completing your next long rest, there's a cumulative 25% chance for each casting that for the first, you get a random reading. DM makes this roll in secret. So this thing right here, they're basically saying, hey, if you cast Augury again, you don't have to worry about this one time. You can reduce this 25% chance entirely to 0. That's the concept, right? But the problem is that this feature over here doesn't give you the option. It doesn't give you the option to cast Augury twice. It only gives you the option to cast Augury once. You have to prepare it to use it again. Kind of silly to me. Just one of my little things that I noticed. And is this very useful? Not really. I mean, it's okay. That's why this kind of feature kind of lands into a very flavor aspect, right? This is not something you're going to build around. This is not something you're going to really rely on. And this kind of feature, relying on Augury, Commune, and Divination, is very DM dependent. It depends on how many clues the DM is willing to give you. If your DM is really locked into this aesthetic and really establishing you as the fortune teller of the party, they can really make a lot of use for this, and this can be really good. But between you and me, if a DM wants to convey their story, they don't really have to ask for your permission as a Fate Domain cleric, right? They'll just impart it on you however they want, whether it be dreams or visions or otherwise. So I don't really like how this feature is written. In particular, I think it's a flavor feature and a weak one at that. Commune and Divination is taking up room on the Fate Domain spell list. I think this is a little bit ill written, and there's something that you could do with this to make it more interesting. Like when you maybe ask more questions, or maybe get different answers or more detailed answers, like empower the spells that you're getting rather than just giving you the spells at a discounted price. Yeah, at a discounted price and at a discounted risk. Like that's basic. Let it be more. There's more interesting things you can do with this. But let's keep going. Yeah, exactly. Well, depending on how your DM decides to roll divinations, it's either useless or amazing. It's setting dependent. But yeah. Let's keep going. Ties that bind. First level, also at first level. So this is kind of the mechanical. This is the combat focused one, or kind of. You temporarily tie your fate to others. In action, you can touch one object or creature. Touch is important here. Let me do that. Touch one object or creature and magically tie a strand of fate to yourself to it for 1 hour till you use the feature again. Unwilling creature has a whiz save against your saving throw to resist. While it's bound to you, and on save, you can sense the direction of the target's location, and you can know this direction of its movement if it is in motion. In addition, once per turn, when you cast a spell, using a spell slot to deal damage or restore hit points to the target, roll a d6 and add it to the healing or damage. Cool. So here we're getting that thread aspect. You touch somebody, you attach a thread of fate to them, and you're linked to them. And you can either heal them for a little bit more or deal a little bit more damage. So the big mechanical points of this is that it's an action. So you're spending an action, not casting a spell, not using Guiding Bolt, not healing somebody. You're just touching a creature to link. You want to do this out of combat or before combat. So if you want to link to an ally, you can give them more hit points when you heal them. Or you can give it to, or if you want to tap somebody who's running away, hopefully you can track them. Now, if you want to do this reliably, play a ranger. You get Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark does this exact same thing, being able to track them, and you know the direction and what movement and their movement if they're in motion. Like all of this is Hunter's Mark things, and this is a little bit less reliable because of the whiz save attached to it. Otherwise, I really like the aesthetic. This is not concentration. It lasts for an hour. I like what this looks like. I like the aesthetic. I don't think it's hitting exactly how useful it could be. And I think this is a great thing to play around with if they really wanted to. So this thread can be built on in future features. Like at 6th level, you can use more threads, or you can get more uses out of the thread, or do more things with it. I think this would be a really cool aesthetic, but this is kind of where it drops off. This is all they do with the thread, right? So this is a cool idea that could really be built on, but they kind of leave it at this, where you can just kind of track someone, maybe if they fail their saving throw. Or you could send their rogue into a dungeon, put a rope on them, send them off, and if something happens, then you know exactly where they are. You know, I can see this being useful. This is another flavor feature, and that's it for first level. Oh, by the way, this is not infinite. There's proficiency bonus per long rest. So you get this plus this at level 1, and they're all middling to underwhelming features. And honestly, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing, right? It avoids the ultra powerful level 1 cleric dip that everybody keeps complaining about with Twilight and Peace, right? These features are not game breaking. They will not change your game dramatically if someone chooses to multiclass in them. They're perfectly normal. They're just a little bit underwhelming, but you know, that's okay. We like when multi-classes aren't too easy, right? It's also PvP per long rest. So with that out of the way, so far I like the aesthetic, I like the look, but I'm not too thrilled about the features. But let's keep going because we got to learn some more. Next is your channel divinity. Again, you can use this once at 2nd level and then twice at 6th level onwards. So that's important to remember. Or is it 8th level onwards? I can't remember. You can use your channel divinity to see and manipulate the strands of fate that weave around other individuals. As a bonus action, you can enter this state for up to 1 minute or until you lose your concentration as if you were concentrating on a spell. For the duration, whenever another creature you can see makes an attack roll or an ability check, you can use a reaction to give the roll advantage or disadvantage your choice. Now, we have seen this before. Do you know? Hey, please, in the chat, do you want to guess where we've seen it before as I go look it up in D&D Beyond? Any guesses? You got 5 seconds before I pull it up. 3, 2, 1, bang! There it is. It's Rune Knight. Surprise. Let's go. Let's scroll down a little bit. I wish I could bump this over just a little bit. You know what? I'm gonna. No, I can't. Let's do that. Scroll. There you go. Like this. Let's go to, where is it? Rune Knight. We have seen this before. In Storm Rune. Here we go. Bonus action, enter a state for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. Until the state ends, when you or another creature within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, of saving throw, or ability check, you can use a reaction to have the roll have advantage or disadvantage. Once you invoke this rune, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Now, this is exactly like... Now, okay, so there are key differences here. So, first of all, 60 feet. What does it say in the UA? Let's find out. So here it is whenever another creature you can see. So this range is infinite. Can we talk about this? The range is infinite. Whenever another creature you can see makes an attack roll or ability check, even if they're hundreds of feet away, this still works, right? There's no cap on the distance of this. So it's not 60 feet, it's infinite. Let's go back to Rune Knight. So Rune Knight, what does this say? When they make an attack roll, saving throw, or an ability check, you can use a reaction cause roll to advantage or disadvantage. So it says attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. Scrying. You can't, sorry, scrying's a concentration spell. That's very funny. But so the big difference here is that they've learned just a little bit. This feature only works on attack rolls and ability checks, not saving throws. As I've said multiple times, disadvantage on saving throw is the most powerful thing you can do to someone. It's the silvery barbers effect. You can disadvantage saving throws, right? And it's very pricey to get something like that. They've effectively removed it from this feature entirely. You can't affect saving throws at all, which makes this feature just okay. You know, it's a whole reaction. Granted, clerics don't really use the reaction for much. Reactions are usually tied to things like channel divinity and class features, right? So if it doesn't work on saving throws and only attack rolls and ability checks, that's not too terrible. You disadvantage one attack per round, or you give advantage to one attack roll per round. It's okay. It's okay. But what makes this not amazing, and you can see it highlighted in orange, it's as if you were concentrating on a spell. So this channel divinity costs concentration. Now, if anybody's played a cleric, you know that one of their most powerful things are their concentration spells, right? So let's talk about Bless. Let's talk about Aura of Vitality. Let's talk about Spirit Guardians, right? Let's talk about Sunbeam. You guys, they get Sunbeam eventually, right? There's a whole lot of Blade Barrier. There's a whole lot of really very, very powerful concentration spells that allow you to control the battlefield and really keep people safe. If you're concentrating on this, it's basically a spell, right? So you can't cast all of your big signature spells. You got to stick to things like Spiritual Weapon, Guiding Bolt, Cure Wounds, instantaneous spells. You can't get Spirit Guardians is off the list. Bless is off the list. This is good. It's okay, but it's not as crazy as you guys are making it out to be. It's not Silvery Barbs. This thing is significantly weaker and maybe appropriate for a second level channel divinity, you know? If this affected saving throws, I think it would be too powerful. But as it stands right now, I actually think it's just okay. I put it green because it's just okay. I think if you guys play with this, right? If you guys actually play with this in-game, you'll realize that there's a lot of caveats to it that don't make it as powerful as you think it is. So, again, middling feature. This is better than the rest so far, but I do kind of like it. Next feature is Insightful Striking. As a bonus action, you choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. This has a distance range. I did mention, again, this has no distance range. It's as far as you can see, by the way. Anyway, this has a range of 30 feet within yourself. Your magic grants you a brief vision of your target's defenses. Until the end of your next turn, you gain one of the following effects of your choice. Next time you make an attack roll against a target, roll a d6 and add the number total to the roll. Next time the target must make a saving throw against a spell you cast. The target must roll a d6 and subtract a number rolled from the saving throw. PB per long rest. Now this feature, this is good. This is like a properly powerful feature, right? Until the end of your next turn, you get one of the following effects. Attack rolls, listen, you're only going to use this for Spiritual Weapon and Guiding Bolt. Let's be honest, you're not actually attacking as a Cleric. Don't fool yourself. Unless you're playing a Star Druid or something that gives you more attacks, you're not going to use this. What you're going to use this for is this right here. Minus d6 to a saving throw is good. Very, very good. Average of 3.5 minus subtracted from that saving throw. Very good feature. This is a bonus action to set up. Doesn't use a reaction because you can save your reaction for this, a channel divinity. So this is good. You get 3 to 4 to 5 uses of this once you're level 5 and higher. I like this feature. Now, here we go. Another test for chat. Where have we seen this feature before? As I pull it up in Chrome, you have like 5 seconds to guess. Because this feature has made an appearance before, somewhere else. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Strixhaven. The answer is Strixhaven. We're going to look towards the Quandrix subclass. So the Mage of Quandrix was something originally available to the Sorcerer Wizard subclass. They're the math nerds. They are... they change probability. Their aesthetic is probability. Oh yeah, you've also seen it as Stargers. I'm sorry. You can also see it as Stargers. Wheel and Woe. I get it. Yeah. But this is more interesting. Basically, this is a feature that never made it out of Mage of Quandrix. Called Diminishing Function. This, you subtract a d6 from your next attack roll, or you can actually add in once before the start of your next turn, choose a creature roll a d6, add it to the attack roll or saving throw of its choice. This is, I think, closer to the idea of changing fate. Strixhaven was my 54th guess. Yes, exactly. Yeah. This is a feature that never made it out of UA, and I think this is something that they kind of wanted to pull out, but never got to. So this is slightly edited. This is within 30 feet of yourself, just like this new feature for the Fate Cleric. Yeah, it's very similar. We can also look towards Star Druid, and I'll pull up exactly what you guys are talking about, because you guys called it as well. Star Druid. Star Druid? Druid? I'll look it up. Should be here. Nope. Druid. Monsters. Give me the class. There it is. Druid Stars. So you guys are talking about Wheel and Woe. So here, this is infinite, by the way. This is not... Oh, it's reaction. So this is different because it's a reaction. This affects attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. Much more flexible. Affects 3 different things. And then Woe is the same thing. Affects attack roll, saving throw, or ability check, and subtracts d6. So this feature is way more powerful than the one that the Cleric has. It's by default very, very, very strong. Yeah, but Star Druids we know is very good. But let's keep going. There we go. So that is level 1, 2, 6. We have 8. Wiz modifier to Cleric Cantrip. Whatever. We know what this is. Visions of the future. Your knowledge of the future allows you to guide an individual to achieve the greatest possible success. you can cast the Foresight spell once without expending a spell slot. When you cast a spell in this way, the spell's duration is 1 minute for the casting. Once you finish the spell in this way, once you cast the spell in this way, you can't do so again until you finish the long rest. 1 minute Foresight. Again, this spell is 9th level, no concentration. Foresight, if you people don't remember, it gives you advantage on everything, and everything has disadvantage against you. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to make sure so I'm not crazy. Let's pull that up. Foresight. Great. Again, you don't have to target yourself. You can target any creature you want. Can't be surprised. Advantage on all attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws, and other creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. It's good. Foresight has a 1 minute casting time. Do they account for that? Interesting. So it has a 1 minute casting time. But it lasts for 1 minute? Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait, let's talk about this. What the? How are you supposed to use this in combat when it only lasts for 1 minute? What? Oh, no. Oh, no, guys. Guys, wait a second. We can't use this. We can't use this thing. Unless you time the fight perfectly. Oh, gosh. Okay, that is poorly worded. Golly, guys. We can't use this. It takes a minute to cast and it lasts for a minute. Unless you time the fight perfectly with the big bad level 17. When you walk right into that chamber, if you take that whole minute to cast Foresight on one guy, then they'll get the benefits of this. That's very funny. That's the boss for a timeout. Oh, no. Too funny. Well, guys, what can I say? What can I say? Unless they make this an action to cast, it is not going to get any use whatsoever. That is very funny. This is very, very funny. Okay, well, that's that, right? Let's talk about this. From the top, Cleric Domain, Fate Domain's Cleric. Love the aesthetic. Absolutely love it. I think playing with Destiny as a Cleric is probably one of the coolest things you could do as a character, and building against that. I think that is wonderful. Domain spells, underwhelming, unfortunately. They just don't have a big enough spell pool to make it really interesting. I think that's the biggest problem, and it's not really something you can fix. Omens importance. Very niche. Really depends on if your DM is cool with playing with this and playing with visions of the future and talking to you as your god. They really got to be invested to make this feature work. Ties that bind is very interesting as well. I like the idea of linking yourself with a strand. I really like the look of that and the feel of that. Is it effective? Can it properly trace people? This wisdom saving throw is making it difficult to target enemies, but using it on friends that have to separate from the party, pretty good. This benefit is negligible. It's a D6. It's okay. Strands of Fate, good feature. Not as powerful as people think because it doesn't affect saving throws and requires concentration. They're really trying to dial this back. You can tell that they learned from the Rune Knight that people didn't really like that. But unfortunately, this takes too many things. Too many things have to work out. You have to sacrifice too many things to make this work, and I think that's the biggest fault of this. Insightful Striking, good feature. Honestly, just a good feature. Balanced. Stars Druid has a much stronger version of this. But I can't complain about this. This is perfectly fine. This is a good feature. Kind of boring, but it's a good feature. This is bog standard, and Visions of the Future just doesn't work because it has to be casted as an action rather than a minute, which is the proper casting time of Foresight. Good catch. Thank you, chat. And that's it, right? I'm gonna leave it at that. This live stream has been an hour. There's a lot of really good stuff beyond this, backgrounds, feats, and spells, but we will literally be here for 3 hours if I choose to delve into that. This is 12 pages, right? We're looking at this 12 pages. How many pages did I get through? I got through 2.5 pages in an hour. You folks, you guys are busy. I'm busy. We have better things to do. We can look at this another day. How about you guys leave in chat what I should cover next? Because I haven't read what's in the future. I haven't read anything past this point. And I think there's a lot of interesting things to cover. But right now, let's call it a night and settle on this. Definitely a good insight into the future of constructs, into the future of really trying to watch their steps, I think. What Fate Domain feels like is them trying to be very, very careful that they don't release anything too strong. But in doing so, they kind of sacrifice the uniqueness or the potential of something tied to the Fate Domain. That's the vibe I'm getting. If you're looking for very good subclasses tied to the tied to Fate, tied to Destiny, yeah, I'll say it. Tal'Dorei Reborn. The Critical Role folks made something called Bard College of Tragedy. This subclass balances rolling nat 1s and nat 20s and making it interesting every time that happens. When you roll nat 1, you get the benefit of a bonus, and if someone rolls a nat 20, then someone gets punished. It's kind of a call and answer to Fate and Destiny and telling a really good story. From this book, this is probably my favorite subclass, just because it's such a cool aesthetic and they pull it off very well. I would love to play one of these, but I think this, as we're looking at it, is them kind of tiptoeing around this idea, this concept, this aesthetic, and not really being adventurous in what they could do. You know what you could do? You could play with rolls. You could twist things around. It's not just a plus d6. You could maybe save rolls for later, like important, but tinier or less effective. You know, there's a ton of things you can do that you could find even in other RPG systems where rolling well is a punishment and rolling badly is a boon later. You know, balancing fate, the concept of karma, all of those things all tie into this aesthetic, and there's more you can do, right? We saw in this subclass that 2 features, Strands of Fate and Insightful Striking and Strands of Fate, are features that we've seen in Tasha's. Like, this is from the Fighter and this is from the Druid. There's room to be creative. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded anything, but there is a video coming out this week. I got a sponsor for that video, which is really cool. So I made a little ad. I hope you guys watch it when it comes out, and I'm looking forward to it releasing. I'll cover the rest of this some other time, hopefully by the end of this month, because come August, we're covering Spelljammer, and that's a whole lot of stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll leave you be. Have a wonderful night. Hope for everybody in the UK, stay cold. Oh wait, I have a catchphrase for that. Give me a second. Stay frosty. Yeah. It is hot there. So stay in the shade. Find yourself some nice cold drinks, and above all else, stay frosty. Have a great night, guys.